I, 28F, stood next to my new husband, Leo, 30M. My hand was in his. The champagne glasses were full. The room was filled with soft light and the happy sounds of our friends and family. We had just finished our first dance. Everything felt perfect. It felt like the beginning of the rest of my life. Leo squeezed my hand gently. I looked at him and smiled. His smile back was everything I had ever wanted. The warmth in the room was more than just the candles. It was love. It was hope. It was the promise of a shared future. My own family was at a table near the front. My sister Chloe gave me a small wave. I saw my mother dabbing her eyes with a napkin. They were so happy for me. They loved Leo. They saw how he looked at me, how he treated me. They believed, just as I did, that this was right. Then his mother, Margaret, stood up. She tapped her glass with a fork. The gentle chatter in the room died down. Everyone turned to look at her. She was holding her champagne flute high. A smile was plastered on her face, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were cold. They were like little chips of ice. I had always felt a chill from her, a sense of disapproval she tried to hide behind polite words. But tonight, I thought, would be different. Tonight was her son's wedding. Surely she could be happy for him. For us. Leo's father, Richard, sat beside her, looking proud and happy. He had always been kind to me. He treated me like a daughter already. He smiled at Margaret, encouraging her. He seemed to think this was going to be a lovely, heartfelt toast. I wanted to believe that too. I squeezed Leo's hand again, a little tighter this time. A knot of anxiety was forming in my stomach. I told myself it was just nerves. It was a big day. Of course I was nervous. Margaret cleared her throat. The silence in the room deepened. "I would like to propose a toast," she said. Her voice was loud and clear. It carried to every corner of the reception hall. "To my son Leo, who has always made me so proud." She paused and looked directly at him. Leo beamed. He loved his mother. He always sought her approval. Seeing her toast him like this in front of everyone meant the world to him. I could feel his happiness radiating beside me. She then turned her gaze to me. The smile on her face tightened. The coldness in her eyes intensified. It felt like she was looking straight through me, seeing something ugly and rotten that no one else could see. The little knot in my stomach grew into a cold, heavy stone. Something was wrong. This wasn't a toast. This was an announcement. An execution. "And to his new bride, Clara," she continued, her voice dripping with something that sounded like pity but felt like venom, "who has brought so much excitement into our lives." The word excitement hung in the air, twisted and ugly. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They could hear it too. This was not a compliment. Then she raised her glass a little higher. The crystal glittered under the chandeliers. She looked around the room, making eye contact with as many guests as she could, ensuring she had their complete and undivided attention. She was a performer, and this was her stage. My wedding was her stage. "So let us all raise a glass," she declared, her voice ringing with triumph. "To this illegal marriage." The words dropped into the room like a bomb. For a split second, there was nothing, just the echo of her voice. Then a wave of absolute, deafening silence washed over the entire hall. The happy chatter was gone. The clinking of glasses stopped. Even the soft music from the speakers seemed to have died. Every single eye in that room was on me. On us. I could feel their stares like physical blows. Confusion. Shock. Pity. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hand, still in Leo's, started to tremble. I looked at him, my eyes pleading with him to do something, to say something. But he was frozen. His smile was gone, replaced by a mask of disbelief. He was staring at his mother as if he had never seen her before. He was as stunned as everyone else. He wasn't my husband in that moment. He was just a boy. shocked by his mother. The silence stretched on, becoming more and more unbearable with each passing second. It was thick and heavy, pressing down on me, suffocating me. I felt small and exposed. It was the worst moment of my life. My wedding day, the day that was supposed to be the happiest of my life, had just been shattered into a million tiny pieces. And the person holding the hammer was my new mother-in-law. I turned my head and looked at Margaret. She was still standing there, her glass held high, that terrible, triumphant smile still on her face. She was enjoying this. She was feeding on the shock and the horror in the room. She was delighting in my public humiliation. In that moment, I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel sad. A different feeling was rising up from the pit of my stomach. It was cold and hard and sharp. It was anger. A pure, clean rage that burned away the shock and the fear. She had picked a fight. She had no idea who she was fighting with. My sister Chloe was the first one to move. She stood up from her table, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. The sound was a shock in the crushing silence. "What did you just say?" Chloe asked, her voice shaking with fury. Margaret finally lowered her glass, a look of fake innocence on her face. "I was just making a toast, dear," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "A toast to the happy couple." "You called her marriage illegal," Chloe shot back, taking a step towards Margaret's table. My mother put a hand on Chloe's arm, trying to hold her back, but Chloe shook it off. Leo finally seemed to snap out of his trance. He let go of my hand and took a step forward. "Mom, what are you talking about?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "What does that mean?" Margaret sighed dramatically, as if she were the one being put upon. "Oh, Leo, darling," she said, patting the air in his direction. "I didn't want to have to be the one to tell you. I was hoping she would have been honest with you before it came to this." She looked at me again, her eyes filled with mock sorrow. "Clara knows what I'm talking about. Don't you, dear?" Every head in the room swiveled back to me. They were waiting for my answer. They were waiting for my confession. She had painted me as a liar, a criminal in front of everyone I had ever cared about. I lifted my chin. I would not let her see me crumble. "No, Margaret," I said. My voice steady and clear, much louder than I expected it to be. "I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Our marriage is perfectly legal. We have a license. We had a ceremony. It was witnessed. It is legal." "Oh, is it?" Margaret said with a little laugh, a sound like breaking glass. "Are you sure about that? Are you sure a person can be legally married to two people at the same time?" A new wave of gasps went through the room. The accusation was clear. She was accusing me of bigamy. She was telling everyone that I was already married to someone else. The absurdity of it was staggering. It was a lie, a complete and utter fabrication. But the way she said it, with such confidence, with such certainty, planted a seed of doubt. I could see it in the eyes of the people looking at me. They were wondering, could it be true? Leo looked at me, his face a mess of confusion and hurt. "Clara," he whispered, "is that true?" My heart broke. That he would even ask. That for even a second he would believe his mother's insane, poisonous lie over me. That was a deeper wound than anything Margaret could ever inflict. "No, Leo," I said, my voice cold. "It is not true. I have never been married before. You know this." "But my mother," he started, looking back at her, lost. "Your mother is lying," I said, cutting him off. I turned my gaze back to Margaret. The fight was not with the confused little boy next to me. It was with her. "You have 5 seconds to take back what you just said. Apologize to me, to your son, and to all of our guests for ruining this day with your disgusting lies." Margaret just laughed again. "Take it back? Oh, sweetie. The truth hurts, doesn't it? I have proof. I wouldn't make such a serious accusation without proof." "Then show it," I challenged. "Show everyone your proof, right now." She smirked. All in good time, she said, finally taking a sip of her champagne. All in good time. She then sat down as if the show was over. She had dropped her bomb, and now she was content to sit back and watch the fallout. The room erupted into a low murmur of conversation. The spell of silence was broken, replaced by whispers and shocked looks. The wedding dinner was over. The party was over. My marriage felt like it was over before it had even begun. Leo was just standing there, looking back and forth between me and his mother, completely paralyzed. He didn't defend me. He didn't confront her. He just stood there, a statue of indecision. I felt a gentle touch on my arm. It was my father. He looked furious, but his voice was calm when he spoke to me. "Let's go," he said quietly. "We're leaving." "This is my wedding," I whispered, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. "This is a circus," he corrected me. "And you are not the main attraction. Not like this. Let's go home." He was right. There was no saving this night. There was no coming back from what Margaret had done. I looked at Leo one last time. He was still just staring at his mother, his face pale. He didn't even notice as my father led me away from the head table, as my sister and mother joined us. We walked out of the reception hall, leaving behind the wreckage of what was supposed to be the best day of my life. The whispers followed us all the way to the door. I didn't look back. The car ride to my parents' house was silent. Chloe sat next to me in the back, holding my hand. My father drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. My mother was in the passenger seat, crying softly. I wasn't crying. I was numb. The beautiful white dress I was wearing felt like a costume. The whole day felt like a dream that had turned into a nightmare. When we got to their house, I went straight to my old bedroom and shut the door. I took off the wedding dress and let it fall to the floor in a heap. I put on an old t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. My phone started buzzing. It was Leo. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. After the 10th call, I turned it off and threw it onto the bed. A little while later, there was a soft knock on the door. "Clara?" It was Chloe. "Can I come in?" "It's open," I said, my voice hoarse. She came in and sat on the bed next to me. She put her arm around my shoulders. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "No, I'm not okay." "What was that?" "Why would she do that?" "Because she's a monster," Chloe said simply. "A jealous, evil monster who couldn't stand to see her son happy with someone else." But to say that? To say I'm already married, it's so specific, it's so crazy. "Crazy people do crazy things," Chloe said. "The question is, what are you going to do now?" I looked at her. What can I do? She ruined my wedding. She humiliated me in front of everyone. And Leo, he just stood there. He didn't even defend me. He asked me if it was true. The memory of his face. The flicker of doubt in his eyes was like a knife twisting in my gut. "He's weak," Chloe said, her voice hard. "He's always been weak when it comes to her. You knew that." "I knew he was close to his mom," I said. "I didn't know he was a puppet. I didn't know he would let her destroy me and not say a word." "So, what's the plan?" she asked. A plan. I needed a plan. I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let Margaret win. She wanted to destroy my marriage, my reputation, my happiness. I couldn't let her. The numbness was starting to fade, and that cold, hard anger was coming back. It was clarifying. It was focusing. "I don't know yet," I said slowly. "But I'm going to find out why she did this. She said she had proof. I want to see it. I want to know what lie she's built this on. And then I'm going to make her pay. I'm going to make her regret the day she ever decided to mess with me." Chloe squeezed my shoulder. "Good," she said. "That's my sister. Don't be a victim. Be a fighter. And you're not alone in this. I'm with you. Mom and Dad are with you. Whatever you need, we're here. I leaned my head on her shoulder. For the first time since Margaret had stood up with her glass of champagne, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. She had started a war. She had no idea how badly she was going to lose it. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted, like I had run a marathon in my sleep. The events of the previous night came crashing back into my mind. The toast, the silence, Leo's face, the humiliation. It was all real. I turned on my phone. There were 37 missed calls from Leo and a flood of text messages. The first few were frantic. "Clara, where are you? Please call me." Then they turned to pleading. "I'm so sorry. Please, we need to talk." Then they became desperate. "I love you. Don't let her do this to us." The last one, sent just a few minutes ago, said, "I'm outside your parents' house. Please come out. I need to see you." I looked out the window. His car was parked across the street. He was sitting in the driver's seat, just staring at the house. A part of me wanted to run down there, to get in the car, to let him hold me and tell me everything was going to be okay. But another part of me, the part that was cold and angry and hurt, knew that nothing was okay. And it was his fault as much as it was his mother's. I went downstairs. My parents were in the kitchen drinking coffee. They looked like they hadn't slept either. "He's outside," I said. My father stood up. "I'll get rid of him," he said, his voice grim. "No," I said. "I need to talk to him, but not out there. I want him to come in here. I want you both to be here when I talk to him." My mother nodded. "Of course, honey." My father went to the door and opened it. I couldn't hear what he said, but a minute later, Leo was walking into the kitchen. He looked terrible. His eyes were red and swollen. He was still wearing his tuxedo from the wedding, though the bow tie was undone and his shirt was rumpled. He looked like a man who had been through a war. He started to walk towards me, his arms outstretched. "Clara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I held up a hand to stop him. "Don't," I said. "Don't touch me." He stopped, his arms falling to his sides. He looked wounded. "I'm so sorry," he said. What my mother did it was unforgivable. "Yes, it was," I agreed. "But what you did, or rather, what you didn't do, was worse. You stood there, Leo. You let her say those things to me. You let her accuse me of being a criminal, a liar, a bigamist. You didn't say a word to defend me. You just stood there." I was in shock, he said, pleading. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe she was doing that. "You could have said, 'That's not true.' You could have said, 'Mom, stop.' You could have said anything, but you said nothing. And then you looked at me, and you asked me if it was true. You asked me, Leo, as if you actually thought for 1 second that I could be capable of something like that. That I would lie to you about something so huge." He flinched. He had the grace to look ashamed. "I know. I'm sorry. I was confused. She was so confident. I didn't know what to think." "You should have thought of me," I said, my voice rising. "You should have thought of your wife, the woman you had just promised to love and protect in front of all those people. Your first instinct should have been to protect me, but it wasn't. Your first instinct was to stand there like a scared little boy, afraid to stand up to your mommy." My father cleared his throat from the other side of the room. Leo looked over at him, then at my mother, then back at me. He looked like a cornered animal. "What did she mean, Leo?" I asked, my voice now quiet and dangerously calm. "Why did she say that? She said she had proof." "What proof?" He shook his head. "I don't know. She's crazy. She made it up." "I don't believe you," I said flatly. "She was too sure of herself. She's been planning this. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. She came to our wedding with the intention of destroying it. I want to know why. And I think you know more than you're letting on." He ran a hand through his hair. He looked exhausted. Before the wedding, he started, his voice low. She was asking a lot of questions about you, about your past. What kind of questions? Just things. Where you grew up, who you dated before me. Normal mother-in-law stuff, I thought. It doesn't sound normal to me, I said. It sounds like an interrogation. He sighed. She hired someone, he admitted, so quietly I could barely hear him. She what? I asked, my blood running cold. She hired one of those online private investigators, he said, looking at the floor, to do a background check on you. She told me she was just being cautious, that she wanted to make sure you were who you said you were. For my protection. I stared at him, speechless. The betrayal was so immense it was hard to process. She hired a private investigator to investigate me? And you knew about it? You knew and you didn't tell me? I told her it was a crazy idea, he said, his voice defensive. I told her to stop. She promised me she would. I thought she had dropped it. I had no idea she was still digging into things. I had no idea she would find something or make something up. So she gets this report from some fake online detective, I said, putting the pieces together. And in this report, there's a lie about me being married before. And she decides to save this little bombshell for our wedding reception. And you knew she was investigating me and you said nothing. I didn't want to upset you, he said weakly. I didn't think it would lead to this. Upset me? I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Oh, I'm far beyond upset, Leo. You let your mother treat me like a criminal suspect. You stood by while she spied on me. And then you stood by while she publicly executed me. All because you didn't want to have a difficult conversation with her. I'll fix it, he said desperately. I'll talk to her. I'll make her apologize. I'll make her tell everyone she was wrong. It's too late for that, I said. The damage is done. Everyone we know heard her. Everyone we know saw you do nothing. An apology isn't going to fix that. Then what do you want me to do? He asked, his eyes pleading. I took a deep breath. I want to see the report, I said. The one from the private investigator. I want to see the proof she has against me. I want to see the lie she built this all on. You are going to go to her house, you are going to get that report, and you are going to bring it to me. Today. He looked horrified. Clara, I can't just go and demand it from her. She'll what, Leo? I interrupted. Yell at you? Disapprove of you? I think we're a little past worrying about that, don't you? Your marriage is on the line. My entire reputation is on the line. You will go to her house and you will get that report. You will not come back here without it. Do you understand me? He stared at me, his mouth slightly open. He had never seen me like this before. The soft, loving woman he had married was gone. In her place was someone cold and hard and unyielding. Someone forged in the fire of his mother's hatred and his own weakness. Yes, he finally whispered. I understand. Good, I said. Now go. He hesitated for a moment as if he wanted to say something more, to try and bridge the massive chasm that had opened up between us. But he saw the look in my eyes and thought better of it. He turned and walked out of the kitchen without another word. After he was gone, my mother came over and gave me a hug. I'm so proud of you, she said. I don't know what I'm doing, I confessed, my hard exterior crumbling for a moment. Yes, you do, my father said from across the room. You're fighting back. It's the only thing you can do. I knew they were right. This was no longer just about a ruined wedding. This was about my life. Margaret had tried to take everything from me. I was going to make sure she was the one who ended up with nothing. Hours passed. The morning turned into the afternoon. I paced the living room waiting for Leo to come back. Every time a car drove down the street, my heart would leap into my throat. My parents tried to get me to eat something, but I couldn't. My stomach was a tight knot of anxiety and anger. What if he didn't get it? What if he went over there and his mother talked him around? convinced him that she was the victim, that she was only trying to protect him. The Leo I saw last night was capable of that. The weak, indecisive man who couldn't stand up for his own wife. Finally, just as the sun was starting to set, his car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the window as he got out. He looked defeated. He walked slowly to the front door, holding a thin manila folder in his hand. He had it. He actually had it. My father let him in. He walked into the living room and stood in front of me. He didn't try to touch me this time. He just held out the folder. "Here," he said, his voice flat. I took it from him. My hands were trembling slightly as I opened it. Inside were about 10 pages, printed from a computer. The top page had a cheap pixelated logo that said Truthfinder Pro. Underneath it said, "Comprehensive Background Report for Clara Miller." I started to read. It had my correct date of birth, my previous addresses, the schools I attended. It was all there. It was creepy, seeing my life laid out like that, even the publicly available parts. Then I got to the section titled Marriage and Divorce Records. My breath caught in my throat. There it was, an entry that said, Clara Ann Miller, married to a Thomas J. Peterson in Clark County, Nevada. Marriage date, June 12, 2016. Status, active, no record of divorce. I stared at the words, my mind reeling. It was a lie. A complete, total, insane lie. I had never been to Clark County, Nevada in my life. I had never met anyone named Thomas J. Peterson. My middle name isn't even Anne. It's Elizabeth. "This is it?" I asked, looking up at Leo. "This is her proof?" He nodded numbly. "She says it's undeniable." "It's a joke," I said, my voice filled with a mixture of rage and relief. "Look at it. The middle name is wrong. The location is a place I've never been. This is not me." "I told her that," Leo said, his voice barely a whisper. "I told her it had to be a different Clara Miller. It's a common name." She wouldn't listen. "She said you were lying about your middle name. She said you were probably lying about everything." "And you believed her?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. "No, not for a second," he said quickly. "I told her she was crazy. We had a huge fight, the biggest fight we've ever had. I told her she had to call you and apologize. She refused. She said she was saving me from a con artist." He sank down onto the couch and put his head in his hands. "She's completely lost her mind." I looked down at the report again. This flimsy, ridiculous piece of paper was what she had used to blow up my life. A $10 internet search that had confused me with some other woman. Or had it? Was it possible Margaret knew this was fake? Was it possible she didn't care? That the lie was the point? "This isn't just a mistake, Leo," I said slowly, thinking it through. "This is malicious. She wanted to find something on me. Anything. And when she couldn't find anything real, she found this and decided it was close enough. She didn't care if it was true. She just needed a weapon to use against me." "Why?" he asked, looking up at me, his eyes filled with pain. "Why does she hate you so much?" That was the million-dollar question. I had always been polite and respectful to her. I had tried so hard to win her over. I had never given her any reason to dislike me, let alone despise me to this extent. There had to be something else going on. Something I wasn't seeing. "I don't know," I said, "but I'm going to find out. In the meantime, we need to discredit this. We need to prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is a lie." "How?" he asked. "First thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to the county clerk's office and getting a certified document stating that I have no previous marriage licenses on file in my name, anywhere in the country. Then I'm going to do my own search. I'm going to find the real Clara Ann Miller who married Thomas J. Peterson in Las Vegas. I'm going to find out everything I can about her. And then I'm going to use it to bury your mother." Leo looked at me, a flicker of fear in his eyes. He was seeing a side of me he never knew existed. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was on the warpath. and I wouldn't stop until I had justice. "What about us?" he asked quietly. I looked at him, at the man I had married just 1 day ago, the man who had let this happen. "I don't know, Leo," I said honestly. "Right now, I'm not thinking about us. I'm thinking about her, and I'm thinking about revenge." The next few days were a blur of activity. I was a woman on a mission. Chloe was my second in command. The first thing we did was go to the courthouse. It was surprisingly easy to get a notarized official document stating that I, Clara Elizabeth Miller, had never been issued a marriage license in this state or any other. It was a simple piece of paper, but holding it in my hand felt like holding a shield. It was my first piece of real armor against Margaret's lies. Next, we turned our attention to finding the other Clara Miller. Chloe was a genius with computers. Within a few hours of searching online public records databases, she found her, Clara Ann Miller, from Ohio. She had indeed married a Thomas J. Peterson in Las Vegas on the date in the report. We even found a public Facebook profile with wedding photos. She looked nothing like me. She was blonde and petite. I was tall with dark, curly hair. There was no way anyone could confuse the two of us. "See?" Chloe said, pointing at the screen. "It's not even a close match. Margaret didn't even try to make her lie believable. She just counted on no one checking." "She counted on Leo being too weak to question her," I corrected. "And she counted on me being too devastated to fight back. She miscalculated on both fronts." Well, at least on one front. Leo was still a work in progress. He had been calling me every day, leaving messages telling me he loved me, that he would support whatever I decided to do. He had moved out of our new apartment and was staying with a friend. He said he couldn't go back to his parents' house. He said he had chosen me. But they were just words. I needed to see action. While Chloe was digging up dirt on the other Clara, I started thinking about Margaret's motive. Why go to such extreme lengths? The jealousy of a mother losing her son didn't seem like enough. This felt deeper, more desperate. I remembered something Leo had said about her wanting him to be with someone else, a woman from a wealthy family. Maybe it was about money. I called Leo. "I need to ask you something about your parents' finances," I said without any preamble. He was taken aback. "Their finances? Why?" "Just answer the question, Leo. Are they well off? Your mother always acts like she's royalty." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "They live in a big house," he said slowly. "They drive nice cars, but I don't know. My dad handles all the money. My mom just spends it." "Has she ever been in debt?" I pressed. "Gambling problems? A shopping addiction?" "Not that I know of," he said. "Why are you asking this?" "Because her level of desperation feels financial," I said, thinking out loud. "This isn't about love or jealousy. This is about something else. Something she's trying to gain or trying to avoid losing." The conversation gave me an idea. It was a long shot, but I needed an ally on the inside. Someone from Leo's family who wasn't under Margaret's thumb. My mind immediately went to his cousin, Sarah. Sarah had always been kind to me. At family gatherings, she would often roll her eyes at Margaret's passive-aggressive comments. She saw through the facade. And more importantly, she didn't seem to like Margaret very much. I found her number in my phone and called her. "Sarah, it's Clara." "Clara, oh my God, I'm so sorry about what happened," she said, her voice full of genuine sympathy. "I wanted to call you, but I didn't know what to say. What my aunt did was... there are no words for it." "Thank you, Sarah," I said. "That means a lot. Actually, I was calling because I need your help." "Anything," she said immediately. "What do you need?" I took a deep breath. I'm trying to understand why she did it. It feels like there's more to it than just her not liking me. I have a theory that it might be about money. I was wondering if you knew anything about your aunt's financial situation. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I thought maybe I had gone too far, that I had crossed a line. But then Sarah spoke, her voice low and conspiratorial. "You're right," she said. It's always about money with her. My mom told me not to say anything, but things are not what they seem in that house. My Uncle Richard has lost a lot of money in bad investments over the last few years. They're in serious debt. My heart started to beat faster. I was right. How serious? I asked. Serious enough that they had to take out a second mortgage on the house, Sarah said. Serious enough that the credit card companies are calling constantly. My aunt is a master at keeping up appearances, but it's all a house of cards. My mom thinks they're on the verge of bankruptcy. It all clicked into place. The desperation, the need to get rid of me. And the woman she wanted Leo to marry? I asked. The one from the wealthy family? Jessica Thorne, Sarah said, her voice dripping with disdain. Her father owns a massive construction company. Margaret has been trying to set Leo up with her for years. She probably saw that marriage as her golden ticket out of debt. You marrying Leo ruined her entire plan. The final piece of the puzzle. It wasn't about me at all. I was just collateral damage in her pathetic, desperate scheme to save herself from her own financial irresponsibility. The anger I felt was so intense it almost made me dizzy. She was willing to destroy my life, my reputation, and her own son's happiness. All for money. Sarah, you've been a huge help, I said, my mind already racing ahead, forming a new plan, a better plan. Can I ask you for one more favor? Of course, she said. There's a family dinner this Sunday at your aunt's house, right? To clear the air? Sarah snorted. Yeah, that's what she's calling it. More like an ambush. I'll be there, I said. And I'm going to need you to back me up on what you just told me. When I confront her, I need someone else in the family to confirm that what I'm saying is true. There was a moment of hesitation. I was asking her to publicly side with me against her own aunt. It was a big ask. She's a bully, Sarah finally said, her voice firm. She's been bullying our whole family for years. It's time someone stood up to her. I'll be there, and I'll have your back. Thank you, Sarah, I said, my voice thick with gratitude. You have no idea what this means to me. After I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time, holding all the pieces in my hand. The fake PI report, the official document proving I'd never been married, the Facebook profile of the real Clara Miller, and now, the motive. The deep, dark, greedy secret that was driving all of this. I had everything I needed. Margaret was hosting a dinner to finish the job she started at the wedding, to isolate me and turn the whole family against me. She thought she was laying a trap for me. She had no idea that she was the one who was about to walk into it. I called Leo. There's a family dinner on Sunday, I said. I know, he said. My mom called. She said it's mandatory. I told her I wasn't going without you. Oh, we're going, I said, a smile spreading across my face for the first time in days. You and me, together. We're going to walk into your mother's house and we are going to finish this, once and for all. What are you planning? He asked, a note of apprehension in his voice. You'll see, I said. Just be ready to have my back. For real this time. No freezing, no confusion. You are either with me 100% or we have nothing left to talk about. I'm with you, he said, and for the first time I actually believed him. Whatever happens, I'm with you. Good, I said, because it's going to be a night your mother will never forget. When Sunday arrived, I felt a strange sense of calm. The anger was still there, a hot coal in the pit of my stomach, but it was controlled. It was fuel. I spent the morning preparing. I made several copies of all my evidence, the fake report, my certificate of non-marriage, the printouts of the other Clara Miller's public records. I put each set in a neat little folder. I dressed carefully. I didn't want to look like a victim. I chose a sharp dark blue dress that was professional and serious. I wanted to look like someone who could not be messed with. When Leo arrived to pick me up, he just stared at me for a moment. You look powerful, he said. That's the idea, I replied. The car ride to his parents' house was tense. Are you sure about this? Leo asked, his hands tight on the steering wheel. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I said. Are you going to be able to do this? To stand with me against her? He took a deep breath. Yes, he said, his voice firm. After what she did, after the lies she told, she's not the woman I thought she was. My loyalty is to you, Clara. I'm sorry it took me so long to show it. When we pulled up to the house, I could see that the whole family was already there. Cars lined the street. Margaret wanted an audience for my final humiliation. Perfect. The more people who witnessed her downfall, the better. We walked to the front door hand in hand. Leo squeezed my hand, a silent gesture of support. I squeezed back. We were a team. Finally, we walked in. The conversation in the living room came to an abrupt halt. Everyone turned to stare at us. Margaret was standing by the fireplace, a glass of wine in her hand. She had a look of smug satisfaction on her face. Richard, Leo's father, stood beside her, looking grim. Sarah was on the couch, and when she saw me, she gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod. Clara, Leo, you came, Margaret said, her voice dripping with false warmth. I'm so glad you decided to be reasonable. We came to talk, Margaret, I said, my voice even and calm. I let go of Leo's hand and walked further into the room. You made some very serious accusations at our wedding. I think it's time we cleared the air. I agree, she said with a smile. I think it's time you were honest with everyone. It's for your own good, dear. The truth will set you free. I couldn't agree more, I said. So let's talk about the truth. You claim that my marriage to your son is illegal because I am already married to another man. Is that correct? That is correct, she said, taking a sip of her wine. She was enjoying this, playing the role of the righteous matriarch. And you claim to have proof of this accusation, I continued. I do, she said, placing her wine glass on the mantelpiece. She picked up a folder that was sitting there, the original copy of the fake PI report, and held it up. A comprehensive background check. It's all in here. Your secret marriage in Las Vegas, it's a matter of public record. A few family members gasped. They were eating it up. She was so convincing. I see, I said. Well, I'm glad you brought your proof, because I brought mine as well. I walked over to the coffee table and placed my own folder on it. I opened it and took out the first document. This, I said, holding it up for everyone to see, is a legally certified and notarized document from the state registrar's office. It officially confirms that I, Clara Elizabeth Miller, have never been married to anyone, anywhere. It's also a matter of public record. The smug look on Margaret's face faltered for a second. Richard took a step forward and took the document from my hand, his brow furrowed as he read it. That's impossible, Margaret sputtered. That document must be a fake. It's not, I said calmly. But speaking of fakes, let's talk about your report. I'd love for everyone to see it. I walked over to her and plucked the folder from her hand before she could react. I opened it and held up the first page. This report is for a Clara Ann Miller, I announced to the room. My middle name, as everyone in my family can attest, is Elizabeth. A small detail, perhaps, but an important one. I then held up the printouts from Chloe's research. And this is the real Clara Ann Miller. Here are her wedding photos from her public social media profile. As you can see, she is a lovely blonde woman from Ohio who looks absolutely nothing like me. I threw the pages onto the coffee table for everyone to see. The room was silent. You could see the doubt creeping onto the faces of the family members. They were looking at Margaret, then at the papers, then back at Margaret. Her perfect little story was starting to fall apart. It's a common name, Margaret said, her voice a little shaky now. The investigator must have gotten the pictures mixed up, but the marriage record is real. Oh, I'm sure it is, I said. It's just not mine. You didn't find a secret. You found a mistake. A sloppy, easily disproven mistake. And you were so desperate to find something wrong with me that you didn't care. You didn't bother to check the details. You just took this lie and you ran with it. You used it to try and destroy my life. I was trying to protect my son, she shrieked, her composure finally cracking. From you, a lying, manipulative gold digger. A gold digger? I asked, laughing. It was a real, genuine laugh. The absurdity was just too much. Margaret, my family isn't poor, but we're certainly not rich. And as far as I knew, neither were you. I married Leo because I love him. It had nothing to do with money. But since you brought it up, let's talk about money, shall we? This was it. The final blow. I looked over at Sarah. She met my gaze and gave me another slight nod. It was time. This was never about me being married before, was it? I said, my voice dropping, becoming more serious. This was about who I wasn't. I wasn't Jessica Thorne, was I? Margaret's face went white. Richard looked at her, his expression turning from confusion to suspicion. What does Jessica have to do with this? He asked. Margaret has been trying to set Leo up with Jessica for years, I explained to the room, because Jessica's family has money. A lot of money. Money that Margaret desperately needs. That's a lie, Margaret yelled. Is it? I said, turning to Sarah. Sarah, why don't you tell your Uncle Richard what you told me? About the real financial situation in this house. Sarah stood up. She looked nervous, but her voice was steady. Uncle Richard, she said, Aunt Margaret has been telling my mom that you're in a lot of trouble, that you have a second mortgage on the house, that you're drowning in credit card debt. She said she was terrified you were going to lose everything. Richard stared at his wife, his face pale with shock. Margaret? Is this true? He asked, his voice a hoarse whisper. Is that why the statements have been going to a P.O. box? Is that why you told me not to worry about our finances, that you were handling it? Margaret was trapped. She looked around the room, her eyes wild, searching for an escape. But there was none. All her lies had cornered her. She didn't want to just protect her son, I said, pressing my advantage. She wanted to sell him. She was willing to destroy his happiness and my life just to get her hands on the Thorne family money to bail her out of the mess she made. I wasn't just the wrong wife for Leo. I was a financial disaster for her, so she had to get rid of me. And she was willing to do it in the cruelest, most public way imaginable. The truth was finally out. It hung in the air, ugly and undeniable. Richard looked at his wife with a look of utter betrayal and disgust. The other family members were staring at her in stunned silence. She had been exposed completely and totally in front of everyone. You, Richard said to his wife, his voice trembling with rage. You did this? You lied to me about our money? You tried to ruin our son's marriage for this? Margaret didn't answer. She just stood there, her face a mask of hate, all her fake charm and elegance stripped away, revealing the grasping, desperate person underneath. Leo, who had been standing silently by my side this whole time, finally spoke. Mom, he said, his voice filled with a quiet, profound sadness. How could you? That was the question that broke her. She let out a guttural sob, a sound of pure rage and defeat. She turned and fled the room, running up the stairs. A moment later, we heard a door slam. The war was over. I had won. But standing there in the wreckage, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The family dinner party broke up in a flurry of shocked whispers and awkward goodbyes. No one knew what to say to us. They just looked at Margaret's family with a mixture of pity and contempt. As we were leaving, Richard stopped us at the door. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in the last hour. Clara, he said, his voice heavy. I am so sorry. I had no idea. About any of it. The debt, her schemes. I swear to you, I didn't know. I know, Richard, I said gently. You've always been kind to me. I'm going to fix this, he said, more to himself than to us. I don't know how, but I am going to fix this. He looked utterly broken. I almost felt sorry for him. He was a victim in this too, deceived by the woman he trusted most. Leo and I drove back to my parents' house in silence. There was nothing left to say. When we got there, he walked me to the door. Can I come in? He asked. I hesitated. I think I need some more time, Leo, I said. A lot has happened. I need to process it. He nodded, his eyes full of pain. I understand, he said. I'll go back to my friend's place. But Clara, I love you. I know I failed you, but I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me. I'll call you tomorrow, I said. It was the only promise I could make right now. I went inside and told my family everything that had happened. They were relieved and furious on my behalf. She got what she deserved, my father said with grim satisfaction. What about Leo? My mother asked. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, I admitted. He finally stood up to her. He stood with me. But the trust, it's broken. It's going to take a long time to heal, if it ever can. Over the next week, the rest of the story came out in pieces, mostly through Sarah. Richard had confronted Margaret. The full extent of her secret debts was even worse than they had imagined. She had maxed out over a dozen credit cards in his name, taken out high-interest loans, and forged his signature on financial documents. She had run their finances completely into the ground, all while maintaining the flawless image of a wealthy, successful couple. Faced with financial ruin and public disgrace, Richard made a decision. He filed for divorce. He was selling the house and everything in it to pay off the debts. He told the entire family that Margaret was no longer welcome in his life. Leo went to see his father. He told me the conversation was the hardest of his life. Richard apologized for not seeing what Margaret was, for enabling her behavior for so many years. They cried together. It was the beginning of a new, more honest relationship for them. As for Margaret, she was left with nothing. Her husband had left her. Her son was not speaking to her. The family that she had ruled over with an iron fist now saw her for the fraud she was. She had lost her home, her status, her money, and her family. All because of her own greed and cruelty. She had tried to make me small, to ruin me. In the end, she had only ruined herself. A few weeks after the confrontation, Leo and I started going to therapy. It was my condition for even considering a future together. We needed a neutral space to talk about the betrayal, the weakness, the broken trust. It was hard. There were sessions filled with angry tears and painful truths. He had to confront the lifetime of manipulation he had suffered at his mother's hands. I had to confront the fact that the man I married had a deep-seated weakness that I might always have to be wary of. Slowly, very slowly, we started to rebuild. He was showing me, through actions, not just words, that he was committed to me. He cut off all contact with his mother. He supported me in every way. He was working hard to become the man I thought he was, the man I needed him to be. We eventually moved into our apartment. It felt strange to be starting our married life so long after our wedding day. We decided to have a second celebration. Not a big wedding, but a small party with just our closest friends and my family. A chance to reclaim the moment that had been stolen from us. At the party, my father stood up to give a toast. He raised his glass. To Clara and Leo, he said, his voice thick with emotion. To a marriage built on love, honesty, and the strength to overcome any challenge. Your journey has not been easy, but you faced it together. To a long and happy life. We love you both. Everyone cheered. Leo leaned over and kissed me. I love you, he whispered. I love you too, I whispered back. And in that moment, I meant it. But later that night, after everyone had gone home, I lay in bed, watching him sleep. The revenge had been satisfying. Margaret was gone from our lives. We were starting over. But a scar remained. I had won the war, but I had not come out unscathed. The trust that had been so easy and natural before was now something that had to be consciously worked at every single day. I made a quiet decision that night. The next morning, I went to the bank and opened a new savings account, an account that was in my name only. I would start putting away a little money from each paycheck, just in case. A safety net, an escape plan. I hoped I would never need it. I hoped that Leo and I would grow old together, that this terrible chapter would become a distant memory. But I would never be naive again. Margaret had tried to prove that our marriage was illegal. She failed. But in the process, she had taught me a valuable lesson. She had proven that it was fragile. And that was a truth I would carry with me forever. I had learned to protect myself, and that was a kind of strength she could never take away. She had wanted to destroy me, but instead she had made me stronger. And in a way, that was the most satisfying revenge of all.